Divine greetings, ones and zeros, zeros and ones, boys and girls that are now men and women, kings and queens, gods and goddesses, spiritual beings of this divine matrix. Welcome. My name is Clay. Today, I want to talk about a topic called decoding your subconscious. Are your dreams truly manifesting your ideas? And how this relates to inner unlocking. And I came to this topic as a suggestion from YouTube, and I realized that it plays a part in my journey, and I could relate. As before I had my schizophrenic break, my mental break, I was actively seeking enlightenment or actively seeking to be awakened. I was questioning a lot of things in society. Things didn't make sense. And me and my partner were actively seeking to be enlightened. Or you could say, well, my partner is a little bit different because she doesn't struggle with the ego the way I do. So she was far ahead of me, um, and she still is ahead of me. Um, so when we were having discussions and certain things, I would see the truth. However, my ego would constantly be in the way, and it would be difficult for me to accept certain truths. And so when it says decoding the subconscious and unlocking the inner self or bringing dreams to reality, I was participating in those conversations from a educational or a fearful perspective. And in doing so, you really do not get to grasp the fullness of the truth that you're even uttering yourself. And in my meditation today, I recognized that as I was coming out of my dream state, so in the rising today, I came out of my rest, my sleep, my dream state to a dream that I had where I was being seduced continuously. I was being seduced. How the dream goes, I was being seduced by an old girlfriend. She was the archetype of the seducer in the dream. And in the dream, I continuously wanted to be seduced. I was giving into the seduction. And so when I came out of the dream, I remember having a feeling of pleasure. And this feeling of pleasure, though, I recognized that it was a parasite because it was instigating me to wanting an outside relationship, wanting something that I had put away, wanting something that I had grown from, wanting something that was in the past. So that old girlfriend, because currently I'm now with my partner, and that old girlfriend that was from high school. And we broke up shortly after high school. So in me wanting to have pleasure from this sensation, wanting to have pleasure from the sensation in the dream, coming out of the dream, I'm realizing that something is wrong. So that's the dream state that I was in. In the dream state, it felt pleasurable. And I'm seeing even now that in the dream state, though it felt pleasurable, there's the subconscious in the dream state navigating a space where I know that in this state where I have put down the body, where I've put down the physical, in that state, I can see that something is not correct. I can see that something is a challenge within my subconscious. So to go forward, keep in mind that the subconscious relates to the feminine and the conscious relates to the masculine. And this is in the physical sense, we're talking about the body. So also in the physical sense, in the more physical sense, in the mental sense, actually, we're talking about heart-brain coherency. So the brain represents the masculine and the heart represents the feminine. So the brain is ego and the heart is intuition. That is how it translates in a physical sense. In the dream state, we're talking about masculine and feminine. And in the dream state, the masculine and feminine plays or transmits its instructions or its sensations to the brain and heart, as the brain and heart is not only a physical manifestation, it's also an etheric manifestation. So you have an etheric body, and this etheric body has your varying aspects of your physical body. So there's a physical brain, there's an etheric brain, there's a physical heart, there's an etheric heart. So coming out of the dream state, this memory transfers from the etheric brain to the physical brain, from the etheric heart to the physical heart. And there's heart-brain coherency or incoherency based on whether you remember your dream or you don't remember your dream, and then also how you interpret your dream. So to get into that dream state reality, what I'm saying is that before my schizophrenic break, before my awakening, I had the dream of being awoken. And fortunately for me, I can see that I am awoken, because there are those who claim to be awoken and they cannot translate the moment that they woke up. For me, the moment that I woke up was when I had this schizophrenic break, and I broke my mental. In that schizophrenic break, my mental break, that is exactly what happened. My mental broke, and the mental is my persona, was the persona that I was having of the narcissist persona that I had developed. And in having that narcissistic persona, right? In having that narcissistic persona, I broke that narcissistic persona, and therefore my dreams came to reality. Now, when my dreams came to reality, I was shattered. I was shattered in many pieces. So an example I like to give is that the mask is like this. When you put the mask on, when you keep the mask on, it's like this, and it's over your face, and you present this persona to the public. You present that persona to everyone. You even within yourself present this persona. At every moment, you present this persona. When I had the schizophrenic break, what happened is that that mask shattered. And as it shattered, I started to see my true self. Even within, I could see my true self. And fortunately for me, I had the benefit of a spiritual partner who, along with medication from the institution, could instruct me on how to put myself back together through spirituality. And as I spoke in another video before, one of the main ingredients or one of the main truths to unlock in that discovery is that everything is my fault. Or you could say, or I choose to say better, that I'm accountable for everything that happens to me. So in facing that and accepting and acknowledging that I transcended the ego that refused to let go of this mask. In transcending that ego, I was able to put the pieces back together. And as I put the pieces back together, I put that mask away. And I chose not to pick that mask back up, even though at some point down the road, I did falter again and pick that mask back up. However, now I'm in the process of constantly rewiring my mind to not have that pleasure center be activated, because that is a misappropriated pleasure. So that is an example of dreams, a dream that I had before of being awoken to the truth, to the reality of what life is. A dream that was based in the etheric realm, a dream that came from my original self, from my source self, from my divine self, a dream that in actuality manifested with this new mental mind. And in having that new mental mind, which is the original mind, right? In having that new mental mind, the demons, the wounds, the trauma of the old mind is still there, particularly as it relates to pleasure, because the things that I took pleasure in before are not the things that I'm taking pleasure in now. So when I was referring to the dream that I had last night, or in the rising that I was mentioning earlier, of the old girlfriend and being seduced by the old girlfriend and wanting to be seduced by the old girlfriend in that dream state and feeling pleasure in that dream state, that is the misappropriated stimulus, the misappropriated pleasure center being stimulated. And then upon coming out of the dream and sitting with myself, meditating with myself, analyzing my dream, because the dream is the subconscious, or the dream is in the subconscious. And in the subconscious realm, there are many messages that transfer. And dreams are a way to transfer messages to the physical realm, right? So as I was in meditation, in a conscious state, in meditation, going through my subconscious, figuring out what this dream meant, what this message meant, I realized that the pleasure that I was feeling is the misappropriated pleasure. That pleasure that I was feeling is not correct. That pleasure that what I was feeling is the old self, is the fear self, the self that through fear developed pleasure in being seduced to the degree of even chasing that which is seducing me. Because in a enlightened state, in the enlightened state, the art of seduction is really the art of reciprocation. The art of seduction is really the art of reciprocation. It is the appropriate energy being transferred, being traded between the feminine and the masculine. So within myself, as I use the love energy and I speak to my intuition, I speak to my feminine, I speak to the source self within that is giving the instructions, and I ask a question. That is me beckoning seduction. Seduce me with good instructions is what I say to myself. Seduce me with currency that is based in wealth, abundance, in health, prosperity, integrity, infinite nature. Seduce me with proper instructions. And upon receiving those proper instructions, that is the seduction, and then I create from that seduction. So that is the proper way that I have awoken to talk to myself, to reason with myself, and have a proper consultation within my own heart. Now, as I have that proper consultation within my own heart, I'm seeing that is my Eve, right? That is from the story of within the Bible, when it says that Eve gave Adam the apple, right? So I beckon to Eve, I call to Eve and ask Eve for the apple, for the instructions, for the nutrients to nourish my mental mind. And she gives me the proper instruction. She gives me the apple. She gives me the apple of my eye, right? Of my eye. That is what she gives me based on my dream, a dream state further beyond this physical state, a dream state in the ethereal, a dream state in the source of things, because that is the deep subconscious, a state that is beyond physicality. So that is an aspect of decoding the subconscious. Decoding the subconscious to reveal the truth of the dreams that we have for ourselves. And as I continue with this message of transcendence, this message of the queen within me ascending, when I say the queen within me, the feminine within me, the goddess within me ascending, as I continue to rewire my mind, I remember that my schizophrenic break, my mental break, because schizophrenia is a type of mental break. So that is why I see that I'm continuously saying a schizophrenic break. That is my uniqueness. I broke my mental through schizophrenic processes. So as I see that this is an awakening through that schizophrenic break, through that mental break, in awakening, I'm seeing the truth of what life is. And in seeing the truth of what life is, I'm seeing how society itself is going through mental breaks. One of the main things you can see in society today, a simple search on Google, there has never been a time where suicides have been this high. Even during the time of the Great Depression in the early 1900s, it hasn't been such a high suicide rate ever in the history of recorded history. So now in this age of Aquarius, what is the age of Aquarius saying? The age of Aquarius is saying this is the age where people begin to wake up from their slumber. You could say wake up from being NPCs. What is an NPC? An NPC is there are many different terminologies. The one I prefer to use is the non-participating consciousness, wherein a person is described as being a zombie, or a person is described as being unconscious. A person is described as being not aware of their divinity. Essentially, that is what it is. When you're not aware of your divinity, you may have faith in other processes. However, your true divinity, your true divine self, you're not aware of it. So then you operate out of fear. When you operate out of fear, you've lost your divinity, because divinity is love, divinity is prosperity, divinity is safety, divinity is abundance, divinity is infinite. These are the traits of divinity. The moment you begin to operate out of fear energy, which fear energy, the acronym is false evidence appearing real, you're in an illusionary state. That means that you are no longer in your divinity. You're in what is called in the soul star chakra. There's two types of representation of the love energy and the fear energy. There's one representation for the love energy, and there's another representation for the fear energy. When you are in your personal will, that is in your fear energy. When you are in your divine will, that is the love energy. So as I practice decoding my own chakra system, I'm reminded to remind us that the chakra system is a beautiful system to work your avatar, to work your temple of a body, because it shows you the 9 doorways. And as I mentioned, the nine doorways, there's no coincidence when you see the word feminine and what that says, or feminine. However, if you look at it closely, you see that there's a 9 in the femme, there's a 9 in the female. And that 9 refers also to us being 9 ether beings. We all have the capability to be 9 ether beings. Now, some are more melanated, and as some are more melanated than others, their 9 ether status is more in alignment with their body, with their temple, with their avatar. For example, black people, melanated people are more in alignment with 9 ether being status than white people, who are more in alignment with 6 ether being status. And these are aspects of the body to transcend. So we are all 6 ether beings. We are all 9 ether beings. We are all earth beings. We are all humans. And with us all being humans, we also have the option to accept that some of us are more inclined to certain things than others. So some beings are more inclined to divinity. Some beings are less inclined to divinity. The beings that are more inclined to divinity, those beings, we refer to them as superior beings. The beings that are less inclined to divinity, those beings I refer to as inferior beings. And this is not to have an imbalance in any way, shape, or form. It is simply to state the truth of what there is. In saying a being is superior and inferior, or saying that a being is inferior or superior, there is no judgment to be had. That is the reality of the situation. It's no different than saying that there's a boy, there's a girl. You go left, you go right. You go up, you go down. These are states of being. The moment you put a judgment, an imbalance on that state, then you yourself become imbalanced. You yourself become thrown off kilter, so to speak. This is the modality of inner unlocking. This is the modality of putting away your ego. This is the modality of having a mental break. Because the mind, the mental, is not something that should be leading. The mental is supposed to be in the background. The mental is the inferior. The brain is the inferior to the heart. We are heart beings. We are heart beings. In being superior, it is the heart that leads. There is a very unbelievable truth. You have to know this truth that science discovers, and that is that the heart is the first organ that science says. The last time I checked, this is what the biological science says, that about the fetus for a human being, that the heart develops first, and then it develops some other organs, and then including the brain, right? And this is an indication of what comes first. The heart comes before the brain. The feminine comes before the masculine. The feminine is the superior. The masculine is the inferior. And I'm reminded here to remind us to have a conversation in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, share if you dare. Challenge me on some of these things that I'm saying, or agree with me. However, let's have a conversation if you are so inclined to have the conversation. If this message is reaching you, that means that we are in alignment in some way, shape, or form. That means that in some way, shape, or form, we have a soul contract together. It's either that I'm dispelling the information to you and you're to respond, or you're simply to see this message and never see it again. It's based on accountability. I'm doing my part in rewiring my mental, in being vulnerable to us all, and trusting that in being vulnerable, I will receive the currency of love, light, truth, beauty, goodness to my soul that I came here to engage in. And with that I say, Ashe, Amen, and Namaste. Each one, reach one, teach one.